Good day, friends. We live in a world that thrives on noise, on constant updates, unending notifications, and a perpetual loop of opinions that seek to define who we are. But today I invite you to lean into a concept that might seem counterintuitive: silence. And not just silence, but intentional disconnection. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is the choice to step back, cut ties, and allow the quiet to reshape you. Healing isn't something that happens on its own. It requires intentionality and space. Silence is that sacred space. In the midst of life's chaos, we often forget that we are not designed to carry every burden indefinitely. The wounds we accumulate, whether emotional, mental, or even physical, need attention and care. But in a world that constantly demands more of us, we rarely take the time to sit with ourselves, to feel the weight of our pain, and to begin the process of mending. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it's the presence of peace. When you allow yourself to step into silence, you create an environment where healing can begin. It's like a sanctuary for your soul, a place where the noise of the outside world fades away and your inner voice becomes audible. In that stillness, you can begin to process the things you've been avoiding: grief, disappointment, anger, or fear. Healing in silence doesn't mean suppressing your emotions. It means giving them the attention they deserve without distraction. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, whether it's from people, social media, or even your own racing thoughts, you lose the ability to listen to what your heart and body are telling you. Silence allows you to tune in and acknowledge the pain you've been carrying. Think of it like a wound on your skin. If you keep picking at it or covering it up without giving it time to breathe, it won't heal properly. Silence is the air that your emotional wounds need to mend. It gives you the clarity to identify what's broken and the strength to begin repairing it. This process also involves letting go of external pressures. Silence is a declaration that your healing is more important than anyone else's expectations or opinions. It's saying, I need this time for me, and that's okay. By embracing silence, you're prioritizing your well-being, and in doing so, you give yourself the chance to grow stronger. In the stillness, you might find that your pain teaches you lessons you didn't expect. Perhaps it shows you the relationships that need reevaluating, the habits that need breaking, or the boundaries that need enforcing. Healing in silence isn't just about patching up wounds, it's about transformation. It's about emerging on the other side with a deeper understanding of yourself and a renewed sense of purpose. So when life feels overwhelming and the noise becomes unbearable, step into the quiet. Create that space for healing, even if it means stepping away from people or situations that drain you. It's not selfish, it's survival. And in that space, you'll find the strength to not only heal, but to thrive. Setting boundaries is one of the most courageous acts of self-love, but it requires more than just good intentions. Many of us are well-versed in the language of boundaries. We say things like, I need to protect my peace, or I'm going to prioritize myself more. But words alone won't create the life we desire. Boundaries come alive only when paired with deliberate and consistent action. Think of boundaries as the gates that guard your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. You can't just draw a line in the sand and expect it to hold. Without action, that line gets trampled over by people, situations, and habits that drain you. Boundaries require maintenance. They require you to stand firm even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. My intentions alone aren't enough. We often fall into the trap of believing that declaring a boundary is the same as living by it. For example, you might decide that you're no longer going to answer late-night work emails, but when the notifications start pinging, you hesitate. You tell yourself, just this once, or perhaps you've decided to step away from a toxic relationship, but when that person reaches out, you find yourself back in their orbit. This happens because boundaries, while essential, are often met with resistance both from others and from within ourselves. Without action, the boundaries we set become empty promises. And when we fail to uphold them, we send a message to ourselves and others that our limits aren't serious, that our peace isn't worth protecting. Action is the backbone of boundaries. Upholding a boundary is not about being rigid or unkind. It's about aligning your actions with your values. It's about showing yourself in the world that you respect yourself enough to enforce the limits you set. For instance, if you've decided to cut ties with someone who drains your energy, action means not answering their calls, not engaging in their drama, and not making excuses for their behavior. It might feel harsh at first, but it's necessary. Boundaries are not about rejecting others, they're about accepting yourself and your needs. The fear of discomfort. One of the biggest obstacles to enforcing boundaries is the fear of discomfort. You might worry about hurting someone's feelings, being judged, or facing conflict. But here's the truth: boundaries are not about keeping everyone happy. They're about keeping yourself healthy. Discomfort is a small price to pay for the peace and freedom that comes with living authentically. In fact, discomfort is often a sign that you're growing. Every time you take action to uphold a boundary, you strengthen your sense of self-worth. You show yourself that your well-being is non-negotiable, and over time, this becomes a natural part of who you are. Boundaries are not barriers. It's important to remember that boundaries are not walls meant to keep everyone out. They are gates that open and close based on what serves you. They allow the right people and experiences into your life while protecting you from what doesn't align with your values. This distinction is key because setting boundaries isn't about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about creating a safe and intentional space for connection, growth, and joy. When you take action to enforce your boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself, you're also teaching others how to respect you and showing them how to set their own boundaries. Be clear and direct, communicate your boundaries clearly without apology or over-explanation. For example, "I won't be available to talk during work hours" is straightforward and leaves no room for misinterpretation. Follow through consistently. Once you've set a boundary, stick to it. If you let it slide just this once, you weaken its power and invite further boundary crossing. Anticipate pushback. Understand that not everyone will respect your boundaries immediately, especially if they've benefited from your lack of them in the past. Be prepared to stand firm even when faced with resistance. Evaluate and adjust. Boundaries are not set in stone. As you grow and evolve, your needs will change, and so will your boundaries. Regularly assess whether your limits still serve you and make adjustments as needed. Seek support. Enforcing boundaries can be challenging, especially if you're used to putting others' needs before your own. Surround yourself with people who respect and support your growth. And don't hesitate to seek guidance from a mentor, therapist, or trusted friend. The transformative power of boundaries. When you pair your intentions with action, boundaries become a source of empowerment. They give you the strength to say no to what doesn't serve you and the freedom to say yes to what does. They help you reclaim your time, energy, and self-respect. Boundaries are not about being perfect, they're about being intentional. They require practice, patience, and persistence, but the more you enforce them, the more natural they become. And with each step you take, you move closer to a life that reflects your values and honors your worth. So don't just set boundaries in your mind, live them out loud. Take the actions that align with your intentions and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. In our fast-paced, constantly connected world, it's easy to lose sight of what really matters. We're surrounded by an overwhelming noise, social media updates, the demands of work, the endless stream of information that fills our screens and our minds. This noise can drown out the most important voice we need to hear, our own. And when we can't hear ourselves, we struggle to understand our true needs, desires, and direction. Silence is not an absence, but a presence. It's a space that allows us to reconnect with ourselves and rediscover what truly matters. It's in those moments of stillness that we can pause long enough to hear the whispers of our hearts and souls, whispers that are often drowned out by the clamor of daily life. The importance of inner listening. We often look outward for validation and answers through the opinions of others, through social media, or even through the constant bombardment of advertisements that tell us what we should want. But these external sources can create confusion, making us lose touch with what we actually want or need. In silence, we can reconnect with our inner voice, the one that's been drowned out by all the distractions. This voice isn't loud or forceful. It's a subtle knowing, a quiet certainty that speaks to us when we allow ourselves the time and space to listen. The beauty of silence is that it allows us to pause long enough to hear this inner voice without interruption. When we've strayed too far. We can finally give our minds permission to slow down. Life is full of noise, and it can be difficult to distinguish between what is truly quiet moments and what is simply a distraction. What truly matters to us. We live in a culture that values constant activity, a shift in priorities, or the courage to make a bold decision. But not everything that demands our attention deserves it. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, we can find ourselves overwhelmed by competing priorities, people's expectations, and the need to keep up. Silence acts as a filter. It helps us to cut through the noise and identify what is essential. When we step away from the constant chatter and allow ourselves a moment of stillness, we can begin to see things more clearly. We gain perspective on the things that are truly important, and we can separate them from the things that are trivial or fleeting. In the silence, we realize that we've been chasing after things that don't align with our values or bring us lasting happiness. The world tells us we need to be constantly busy, constantly achieving, but silence allows us to see that some of these pursuits are simply distractions from what really matters: our health, our relationships, our peace of mind, and our inner well-being, the clarity that comes from silence. Silence isn't just about turning down the volume of the world around us, it's about turning up the volume on the clarity within us. It's when we create a space of stillness that we can gain the clarity to make decisions that truly align with who we are and what we value. When we're constantly moving, it's easy to be reactive, to act based on pressure or emotion. But silence gives us the opportunity to pause and reflect before we act. It's like cleaning a foggy window so that we can see more clearly. When we stop long enough to listen, we can hear the clarity of our own thoughts, desires, and needs. This clarity allows us to make choices that are grounded in what truly matters. It helps us to act with intention rather than simply reacting to the noise around us. Whether it's making a career decision, choosing who to spend our time with, or deciding how to spend our energy, silence gives us the clarity to make those decisions from a place of wisdom and authenticity. Silence reveals our true desires. In silence, we are free from the expectations of others and the pressure to conform. We are left with our raw, unfiltered desires that often get buried under layers of societal conditioning or fear of judgment. It's in those quiet moments that we can hear what we truly want, not what others have told us we should want. We may discover that we long for deeper connection rather than constant achievement, that we crave more time for creativity and self-expression, or that we need to let go of something that's been weighing us down. These realizations often don't come when we're caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. They emerge when we allow ourselves the space to be still. The beauty of silence is that it strips away the distractions and invites us to reconnect with our deepest desires, those desires that come from the core of who we are. The courage to act on what we hear. The ultimate power of silence is not just in hearing what matters, it's in acting on it. Once we've allowed ourselves to hear our inner voice, we must have the courage to follow its guidance. This often means making difficult decisions, stepping outside our comfort zones, and rejecting the noise that no longer serves us. When we listen to what truly matters, we may find ourselves drawn toward new paths that require us to let go of old patterns, relationships, or situations that no longer align with our growth. But silence helps us find the strength to walk those paths with conviction. In the quiet, we develop the clarity, courage, and confidence to move toward what truly matters. It's through this deep connection with ourselves that we can live authentically, make choices that honor our values, and cultivate a life that aligns with our true purpose. In a world that values constant connection, social media, work, emails, family obligations, it can be difficult to understand why stepping away from it all might be necessary. Yet sometimes the most important step we can take for our own growth is to disconnect from the things that no longer serve us. The act of disconnecting is not a rejection of connection, but rather a gateway to deeper, more meaningful relationships and connections that align with our true selves. When we disconnect, we create space for ourselves to recharge, reflect, and rediscover what we truly need. It's a space that allows us to clear the clutter in our minds and hearts so that we can reconnect with the people, experiences, and purposes that genuinely nourish us. Disconnection, in essence, acts as a reset button, giving us the chance to realign with our core values and desires. Releasing the noise to reconnect with what matters. The constant influx of information, opinions, and demands can often leave us feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from our own truth. Social media, in particular, has a way of distorting our sense of reality, making us feel as if we're falling behind or missing out. The pressure to stay connected to everything and everyone can lead to feelings of isolation, despite the fact that we are surrounded by a digital world. When we step back from this noise, we create the conditions for a true reconnection with ourselves. Disconnection offers the rare opportunity to silence the external distractions and focus inward. We can reflect on what truly matters in our lives and let go of what no longer serves us. This quiet time is when we gain the clarity necessary to recognize the relationships and activities that align with our values. Reevaluating our relationships. Disconnection also provides us with the chance to reassess the relationships in our lives. Sometimes we stay connected to people or groups out of obligation or habit, not because they add value to our lives. Over time, we may find that certain connections are draining, toxic, or no longer resonate with who we are becoming. Taking time to disconnect from these relationships doesn't mean we are rejecting people. It means we are giving ourselves the space to evaluate whether these connections are healthy and whether they still serve our growth. This disconnection allows us to release old patterns of behavior and begin to build relationships based on mutual respect, shared values, and genuine connection. It is from this place of personal clarity that we begin to open the door to more fulfilling, authentic connections, creating space for new opportunities. Disconnection isn't just about stepping away from certain relationships or responsibilities. It's also about creating space for new opportunities to enter our lives. When we are constantly busy or distracted, we leave little room for the new and the unknown. However, when we disconnect, we break the cycle of predictability and allow ourselves to embrace new experiences and ideas. This disconnection can be as simple as taking a break from routine or stepping out of our comfort zones. It's in these moments of pause that we become open to the unknown, where creativity and fresh perspectives can emerge. By disconnecting from the things that keep us stuck, we make room for new opportunities to present themselves, opportunities that we might have missed if we hadn't taken the time to step back and recalibrate. Strengthening the connection with ourselves. The most profound shift that disconnection brings is the opportunity to reconnect with ourselves. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention and energy, but this can cause us to lose sight of our own needs and desires. Disconnection, especially from external distractions, provides us with the chance to reconnect with who we truly are without the influence of others' expectations. When we disconnect from external noise, we strengthen our internal connection. We begin to listen to our own voices more clearly, rediscover our passions, and gain a deeper understanding of what we need to be truly fulfilled. By reconnecting with ourselves, we can approach the world with a stronger sense of identity and confidence, which in turn allows us to connect more authentically with others. Reframing disconnection as empowerment. Many people view disconnection as a loss, whether it's from friends, family, work, or social media. There is often a fear that stepping away will lead to a sense of isolation or missing out. However, the opposite is true. Disconnection is not a sign of weakness, it is a powerful act of self-care and empowerment. It's an act of reclaiming control over our time, energy, and focus. In truth, disconnection allows us to recalibrate our lives in alignment with our deepest needs. It is a conscious choice to stop living on autopilot, to stop mindlessly following the crowd, and instead to choose the connections and experiences that are meaningful. This shift in perspective transforms disconnection from something that feels like a loss into something that represents freedom and choice. Through disconnection, we come to realize that we are not dependent on constant external validation to feel worthy or fulfilled. We become empowered to pursue the connections and opportunities that reflect our true selves, rather than those that are imposed upon us. In a world that often equates silence with passivity or weakness, it's crucial to understand the profound power that silence holds. We are frequently taught that to be heard, to have a voice, is a sign of strength. We are encouraged to speak up, make our opinions known, and be vocal about our feelings and desires. Silence is not an absence, it is a presence. It is the conscious choice to step back, to pause, and to refrain from reacting impulsively. Silence allows us to gather our thoughts, process our emotions, and respond with clarity rather than with the initial rush of reaction that can often be driven by anger, fear, or confusion. Silence as emotional resilience. When faced with challenges, conflict, or emotional upheaval, the natural instinct for many is to react, to respond immediately, to voice their hurt, anger, or frustration. However, silence in these moments is a reflection of emotional resilience. It shows that we are not controlled by our emotions, but instead are able to step back, assess the situation, and choose our response from a place of calm and wisdom. In fact, those who can remain silent in the face of adversity demonstrate a deep understanding of their own emotional landscape. They recognize that silence is not about suppressing their feelings or avoiding confrontation, but about having the strength to resist reacting in a way that may escalate the situation or cause unnecessary harm. Silence is the choice to hold space for reflection, to center oneself before making a move. The power of listening. True strength in silence comes not just from abstaining from speaking, but from listening. Silence enables us to be present and fully absorb what is being said, both verbally and non-verbally. In conversations, silence creates space for others to share their thoughts without interruption. By choosing silence, we open the door to more meaningful conversations and connections. We demonstrate that we value the perspectives of others, and in doing so, we gain a greater understanding of the world around us. Listening with silence is a powerful tool in building empathy and trust, two critical components of any healthy relationship. Silence as a form of boundaries. Silence can also be a powerful form of boundary setting. In a world that often demands our time, attention, and energy, learning when to be silent is an essential aspect of self-preservation. There are moments when silence is necessary to protect our emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Whether it's choosing not to engage in toxic conversations, stepping away from drama, or refusing to participate in situations that drain us, silence becomes a tool for safeguarding our energy. When we choose silence in these moments, we are asserting our boundaries. We are saying that we will not allow external forces to dictate our emotions, our focus, or our peace of mind. Silence in this context is not weakness, it is the ultimate act of self-respect and personal power. Silence as a tool for reflection and growth. Silence is also a space for reflection and personal growth. In our fast-paced world, it is easy to get caught up in the constant noise of daily life, constantly moving, constantly engaging, and never taking the time to stop and think. Silence provides us with the opportunity to step out of the rush and into stillness. It's in these quiet moments that we can assess our lives, reflect on our choices, and decide on our next steps. In the silence, we are given the space to confront our fears, to challenge our limiting beliefs, and to reconnect with our true selves. Silence offers a sanctuary for introspection, a place where we can engage in honest self-examination. It's in this space that we grow, evolve, and discover deeper layers of who we are. Silence as self-control. To remain silent in moments of tension, frustration, or anger is not an easy feat. It requires a level of self-control that many people struggle to maintain. We are often encouraged to express ourselves, to let our voices be heard, to make sure people know how we feel. While this is valid at times, there are also instances where silence is the more powerful choice. Self-control in silence demonstrates an immense level of strength. It means that we are not controlled by the impulses of our emotions, but are able to rise above them. When we choose silence over reactive speech, we are taking responsibility for our emotional state. We are choosing to lead with thoughtfulness rather than being led by emotion. This self-control is a cornerstone of personal power. Silence is not just the absence of words, it's a profound space where our thoughts, fears, dreams, and intentions reveal themselves. When we are constantly surrounded by voices, we are at risk of losing our own. Silence offers a unique opportunity to step back and truly listen to what's within. So embrace silence as a powerful tool of reflection, a sanctuary where we can meet ourselves without external noise or judgment. In silence, we can confront what matters most, allowing us to heal, to strengthen, and to become clearer about who we are. Silence is often overlooked in our world today, where constant noise and endless connection have become the norm. We're so accustomed to the sound of our own voices and the clamor of daily life that silence can feel foreign, even uncomfortable. Yet silence is one of the most powerful tools for self-reflection and personal growth. When we embrace silence, we create a space for a deeper dialogue with ourselves, a space where we can sift through our thoughts, process our emotions, and truly understand our inner landscape. When we're silent, we can begin to see ourselves more clearly. It's a time to drop the armor and release the need to respond, explain, or defend. Silence becomes a mirror that reflects back the things we might have buried in the noise, our insecurities, our doubts, our dreams, and our strengths. In silence, the truths we've kept at arm's length have a chance to surface. And although some of these truths may be difficult to face, confronting them is the first step toward meaningful change. Silence is also a powerful filter. When the outside noise is turned down, we're better able to recognize which thoughts and feelings are truly our own and which have been influenced by others. In our society, it's all too easy to adopt the beliefs and expectations of others without even realizing it. But in the stillness, we can begin to separate what we've absorbed from the world around us from what genuinely resonates with our own hearts and minds. This is where true self-discovery happens. Silence gives us the clarity to identify what aligns with our authentic selves and what doesn't. Moreover, silence allows us to reconnect with our intentions and to reevaluate our direction. Without the constant push and pull of external forces, we can ask ourselves the important questions: where am I headed? Why am I doing what I'm doing? What is my purpose? In these moments, we begin to notice the patterns in our behavior and the motivations behind our choices. We can start to align our actions with our values, letting go of what doesn't serve us and doubling down on what truly matters. In silence, we can also cultivate a sense of peace. The world outside is often chaotic, and sometimes that chaos creeps into our minds. When we allow ourselves moments of quiet, we find the chance to let go of stress, worry, and anxiety. We give ourselves the gift of stillness, and in doing so, we create a wellspring of calm within us. This inner calm doesn't mean that challenges won't come, it means we'll be better equipped to face them. Silence gives us resilience because it roots us in ourselves. It builds a foundation of strength that external noise can't shake. Finally, silence invites creativity and inspiration. In the quiet, our minds are free to wander, to imagine, and to create. Ideas flourish and new perspectives emerge. It's often in those silent moments that breakthroughs happen, those aha moments that can change the course of our lives. Creativity requires space, and silence is the fertile ground where our imaginations can take root and blossom. So let us embrace silence not as a void, but as a vital part of our growth. Let us recognize that silence is not passive, it is an active, transformative tool. In the stillness, we gain clarity, reconnect with our inner wisdom, and rediscover our own strength. And as we learn to trust the insights that arise from our silent moments, we empower ourselves to live more authentically, to act more intentionally, and to grow in ways that align with who we are meant to become. Silence, in all its depth and simplicity, is a profound teacher if only we are willing to listen. Boundaries are often misunderstood, seen by some as walls that separate us from others or as acts of selfishness. But in truth, boundaries are far from selfish. They are an essential expression of self-respect and a powerful form of self-care. Establishing boundaries is a way of honoring our time, energy, and emotional well-being. By setting healthy limits, we communicate both to ourselves and to others that our mental and emotional health matters. And we let the world know that we value ourselves enough to protect our peace, prioritize our needs, and maintain control over our lives. Creating boundaries begins with recognizing our own worth. Without a strong sense of self-respect, it's easy to say yes to others out of a sense of obligation, fear of rejection, or a desire to please. But when we respect ourselves, we realize that it's okay and often necessary to say no. A healthy no doesn't have to be harsh or defensive. It's simply a clear and gentle way of affirming that we are in charge of our lives. We are not obligated to say yes to things that drain us, compromise our values, or stretch us beyond our limits. By setting these boundaries, we're choosing to invest in our well-being and to protect our energy for the things and people that truly matter. Boundaries also help clarify our relationships. When we have clearly defined boundaries, we're able to communicate openly with others about what we need and expect. This fosters a sense of mutual respect and understanding. People in our lives begin to recognize and respect these boundaries because they see that we respect ourselves. In relationships without boundaries, resentment often builds up because we feel taken advantage of or undervalued. Boundaries help prevent this. They allow us to interact with others in a way that is balanced, respectful, and empowering. It's a way of saying, I value you and I value myself too. Another essential aspect of boundaries is the way they protect our emotional energy. Each of us has a limited amount of energy to give in a day, and we need to be intentional about how and where we spend it. When we set boundaries, we're able to conserve our energy for what truly aligns with our values and brings us fulfillment. Imagine boundaries as a reservoir. They hold our emotional resources in a safe place, ready for the moments that truly matter. Without boundaries, we risk giving so much of ourselves that we're left empty and depleted. But by honoring our limits, we ensure that we have the energy to engage fully with life, to give our best, and to protect our peace. Boundaries are also key to fostering self-awareness and self-responsibility. Setting limits requires us to reflect on our own needs, values, and goals. It's a process that asks us to be honest with ourselves about what we want and what we're willing to tolerate. In doing so, we become more attuned to what genuinely fulfills us versus what drains us. Boundaries ask us to take responsibility for our own happiness rather than depending on others to make us feel whole. They remind us that we have the power to shape our lives in a way that reflects our values and brings us joy. Instead of waiting for others to respect us, we start by respecting ourselves. Moreover, boundaries teach others how to treat us. People learn about what we will and won't tolerate based on how we communicate and reinforce our boundaries. When we set boundaries, we're saying, I deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and consideration. This doesn't only impact how others see us, it also influences how we see ourselves. Each time we set a boundary, we are reinforcing our sense of self-worth. It's an ongoing practice that reminds us that we are deserving of respect, and it invites others to mirror that respect back to us. Of course, setting boundaries is not always easy. It can be uncomfortable, especially if we're used to prioritizing others' needs over our own. We may worry about upsetting others or fear that people will walk away. But the reality is, healthy boundaries often strengthen relationships. When we are clear and open about our limits, we make it easier for others to understand us, and we eliminate misunderstandings. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and boundaries are the foundation for that respect. They allow us to show up authentically and without resentment, creating a space for trust and understanding to grow. Finally, boundaries help us maintain focus on our own path. When we respect our own limits, we become more aligned with our purpose and less distracted by the noise and demands around us. Boundaries serve as a compass, guiding us back to our true selves whenever we feel pulled in too many directions. They allow us to nurture what we value most and help us to live a life that's in line with our goals and dreams. By saying no to what doesn't serve us, we are saying yes to what does. In the end, boundaries are an act of kindness toward ourselves. They are a way of reclaiming our time, energy, and peace. By respecting our own needs, we empower ourselves to live authentically and to connect with others in a more meaningful and respectful way. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out, they're about inviting people into our lives with mutual understanding and respect. When we set boundaries, we choose to honor ourselves, and that is one of the most profound acts of self-love we can practice. In our fast-paced and interconnected world, emotional energy is one of our most precious resources, yet it's also one of the easiest to lose. When we talk about reclaiming emotional energy, we're really talking about taking control of our inner resources, learning to guard them as vigilantly as we might guard our time, money, or physical health. Emotional energy is the fuel that drives our motivation, creativity, and resilience, yet so many of us find it slipping away throughout the day as we deal with distractions, conflicts, and challenges. Reclaiming this energy is essential not just for our productivity, but for our mental well-being and fulfillment. One of the first steps to reclaiming emotional energy is learning to let go of what drains us. We often give away our energy to things that don't truly deserve it: petty conflicts, unnecessary worries, or even the opinions of others. Each time we engage in these draining activities, we expend emotional energy that we could use for something meaningful. It's important to remember that we don't have to react to everything that happens around us. Just because someone else is upset, frustrated, or anxious doesn't mean we need to absorb those emotions. We can choose what we engage with. By practicing detachment, we reclaim our right to decide where our emotional energy goes. Another powerful tool for reclaiming emotional energy is setting clear emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries allow us to define what we are willing to accept from others and what we are not. It's a way of protecting our emotional reserves from being exhausted by people who might take more than they give, or from situations that repeatedly leave us feeling depleted. When we establish these boundaries, we start to see an increase in our emotional energy because we're no longer allowing external forces to dictate how we feel. We create a safe space where we can focus on our own needs, emotions, and growth without interference. This is a vital part of reclaiming energy because it creates an emotional buffer, allowing us to stay grounded and centered. In addition to setting boundaries, reclaiming emotional energy involves examining our own thoughts and self-talk. Much of our emotional energy is drained not by external events, but by our own internal dialogue. Negative self-talk, self-doubt, and overthinking can sap our energy more quickly than any outside influence. When we constantly criticize ourselves or dwell on past mistakes, we are essentially using our energy against ourselves. Instead, we need to cultivate a mindset of self-compassion and positivity. Practicing gratitude, for example, can significantly impact our emotional reserves by shifting our focus away from what's lacking and toward what's abundant. When we stop battling ourselves internally, we reclaim a tremendous amount of energy that we can then direct toward our goals and relationships. Part of reclaiming emotional energy also involves learning to prioritize joy. Many people think that emotional energy is something to be hoarded or carefully rationed, but in truth, the more we engage in activities that bring us joy, the more energy we generate. Joy is not a luxury, it's a necessity for our emotional well-being. Whether it's spending time with loved ones, pursuing a hobby, or simply taking a walk in nature, moments of joy act as fuel for our spirit. They refill our emotional reserves, allowing us to face life's challenges with greater resilience and optimism. By prioritizing joy, we remind ourselves that life is not just about productivity or responsibility, it's also about experiencing happiness and fulfillment. Letting go of the need to control everything is another essential part of reclaiming our emotional energy. Many of us exhaust ourselves trying to manage every aspect of our lives and the lives of those around us. We want everything to be perfect, and we often fear that if we let go, things will fall apart. But this constant need for control can be incredibly draining. Reclaiming emotional energy means learning to trust in the process, to accept that some things are beyond our control, and to allow life to unfold naturally. When we release the need for control, we find that we have more space for peace and calm, and we stop wasting energy on things we can't change. We start to approach life with a sense of acceptance, knowing that not everything needs to be managed or controlled by us. Lastly, reclaiming emotional energy requires us to practice presence. So much of our energy is lost when we're caught up in either the past or the future. We worry about things that have already happened, or we stress about things that haven't happened yet. But the only time we can truly influence or enjoy is the present moment. By practicing mindfulness and staying grounded in the here and now, we can prevent our emotional energy from scattering in all directions. Mindfulness encourages us to slow down, to notice our surroundings, and to engage fully with the moment in front of us. When we are present, we experience life more fully and deeply, and we reclaim energy that would otherwise be lost in rumination or anxiety. Reclaiming emotional energy is not about becoming invulnerable or detached. It's about recognizing that our emotional well-being is a limited, valuable resource that deserves protection and care. It's about making choices that honor our mental and emotional health, and about creating a life that energizes rather than drains us. When we reclaim our emotional energy, we empower ourselves to live more fully, to give more generously, and to pursue our passions with vigor. By managing where we invest our energy and protecting our reserves, we create a foundation of resilience and inner strength, one that allows us to navigate life with greater clarity, joy, and purpose. Fear and shame are powerful emotions that often arise when we're working to better ourselves, pursue a goal, or simply live authentically. They can show up at any stage, but they're especially strong when we're stepping into new territory or aiming higher than before. Fear and shame tell us that we're not good enough, that we'll fail, or that others will judge us for even trying. These emotions can act like weights, holding us back from realizing our potential or enjoying the journey toward our goals. But understanding how to navigate fear and shame is crucial, as it enables us to keep moving forward despite these feelings, making the journey not only possible but transformative. Fear, at its core, is often our mind's way of protecting us. It warns us of potential risks and dangers, which can be helpful in situations where real physical or emotional threats are present. But fear also shows up when we're about to take positive, growth-oriented steps, telling us that we might fail, look foolish, or face rejection. In this way, fear can trick us into believing that staying safe means staying small. When fear arises, it's an invitation to pause and ask ourselves what's really at stake. We may realize that fear is simply signaling change, not actual danger. Instead of letting it stop us, we can recognize it as part of the process. Acknowledging our fear instead of ignoring or suppressing it can bring relief. We can say, yes, I'm afraid, and still choose to act. It's not about eliminating fear, but rather learning to move forward even with it. Shame, on the other hand, is a more insidious force. While fear warns us of external threats, shame attacks our self-worth from within. It tells us that we're flawed, unworthy, or that something is inherently wrong with us. Shame often arises when we're most vulnerable, when we're revealing our true selves, expressing our dreams, or sharing parts of ourselves that we've kept hidden. For many, shame stems from early experiences where they were criticized, judged, or made to feel small for simply being themselves. These early experiences can leave a lasting impression, leading us to believe that hiding parts of ourselves will keep us safe. But in reality, shame only keeps us from fully engaging in life. It blocks our ability to connect, grow, and experience the fullness of who we are. Navigating shame involves compassion and self-acceptance. It requires us to look at the parts of ourselves we feel embarrassed or unworthy about and say, you are enough. It's about realizing that our worth is not defined by others' opinions or by past mistakes. And shame thrives in secrecy, but when we bring it into the light, whether by talking to someone we trust, writing it down, or even just acknowledging it to ourselves, we begin to loosen its grip. We recognize that our worth is not determined by others' perceptions or by a single moment of vulnerability. By accepting ourselves as we are, including the parts we've been taught to hide, we start to reclaim our power. Intuition is that quiet, often subtle sense within us that guides our decisions and perceptions in ways logic alone cannot always explain. It's an innate, deeply personal compass that offers insight beyond what we can see or hear. Yet, in a world that often values rational thinking and external validation, trusting our intuition can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. We're encouraged to rely on hard evidence, to think things through and weigh every option carefully. While there's certainly value in logical decision-making, intuition provides us with a unique form of wisdom, one that is immediate, personal, and responsive to our inner needs and values. Learning to trust this inner voice is not about rejecting logic, but about allowing space for something deeper, something that speaks to our heart and mind alike. Trusting our intuition begins with learning to listen, which is not as simple as it might seem. In our busy, noisy lives, our inner voice is often drowned out by the constant flow of information, distractions, and opinions from others. Tuning into intuition means creating moments of stillness and quiet reflection. This could be as simple as spending a few minutes each day in silence or practicing mindfulness to clear away the mental clutter. These moments allow us to connect with what our inner self is telling us, our gut feelings, subtle sensations, or spontaneous insights that arise when we're not actively seeking them. And in these quiet spaces, we become more attuned to the subtle nudges and feelings that often go unnoticed in the rush of daily life. We learn to recognize what feels right and what doesn't, not through logical analysis, but through a deeper, more instinctive knowing. Intuition also speaks in different ways for each person, so learning to trust it involves discovering how it communicates with us individually. Some people may experience intuition as a physical sensation, a warmth in the chest, a feeling of lightness or heaviness, or even a sense of calm or tension. For others, it may be a quick flash of insight or a subtle, almost whispered thought that seems to come from nowhere. Trusting intuition means paying attention to these unique signals, recognizing them as valuable sources of guidance. The more we notice these signals and acknowledge them, the stronger they become, like muscles we're exercising and strengthening. We build a relationship with this inner knowing, one that becomes more reliable and accessible the more we engage with it. However, trusting intuition also requires a degree of self-trust and self-worth. To follow our intuition means to believe that we are capable of making sound decisions, even when they may not seem logical to others or align with conventional wisdom. This requires courage and a willingness to stand by our choices, even if they lead us down paths that are less conventional or understood by those around us. Doubt often arises when we place too much emphasis on the opinions of others or on external validation. But intuition is personal, and its guidance is meant for us alone. Trusting it means releasing the need to justify our decisions to anyone else, trusting that we are capable of leading our lives according to our own inner wisdom, and accepting that our unique path might look different from someone else's. There is also an element of practice involved in trusting intuition. Intuition is not always loud or insistent. It may be gentle and quiet, easily overshadowed by doubt or external influences. We can start small by following our gut on everyday decisions, noticing how it feels when we do, and reflecting on the outcome. Perhaps it's choosing a certain route home, reaching out to someone we haven't spoken to in a while, or saying no to something that doesn't feel right. As we make these small, intuitive choices, we gain confidence in our ability to trust ourselves. We see how often our intuition leads us to outcomes that align with our values, needs, and desires. Each time we listen, we strengthen the bond between our conscious mind and our deeper intuitive self, building a foundation of trust that empowers us in larger decisions as well. There's a kind of power in silence, a strength, a knowing. But most of us, we fill the quiet with noise because silence makes us uncomfortable, because we think if we're not saying something, we're missing something. But here's the truth. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. We've all been there. That moment when anger rises like a wildfire inside you, hot, uncontrollable, and ready to burn everything in its path. Your pulse quickens, your hands clench, and every fiber of your being is screaming to say something, anything, to release the frustration boiling inside. And in that split second, it feels like speaking will give you power, like your words will set things right, make you feel better, prove your point. But here's the truth. The words you speak in anger are the words you will most likely regret. Think back to a time when you were furious, a time when you let your emotions take the driver's seat and words came rushing out before you could stop them. Maybe it was with a partner, a friend, a coworker, or even a stranger. And now, with time and distance, you can see it clearly. Those words didn't fix anything. They didn't solve the problem. More often than not, they made it worse. They built walls instead of bridges. Anger is powerful. It has the ability to turn rational people into reckless ones. It can make you say things you don't even mean, things that cut deep, things that can't be taken back. And the worst part, once those words leave your mouth, they stop being just words. They become wounds. But silence? Silence is strength. It's the pause that stops destruction before it starts. It's the deep breath before saying something you'll wish you hadn't. It's the space that allows you to cool down, to gain perspective, to ask yourself, is what I'm about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer is no, then silence is your best option. That doesn't mean you ignore your feelings. It doesn't mean you suppress your emotions or let people walk all over you. It means you give yourself time. Time to process, time to reflect, time to respond instead of react. Because there's a world of difference between the two. Reacting is instinctual, responding is intentional. When you react in anger, you hand over your power, you let the moment control you. But when you stay silent, just for a beat, you regain control. You step back, you allow yourself to think, to breathe, to choose words that heal instead of harm. And here's the thing, no one has ever looked back and said, I really regret staying silent when I was angry. But people regret the words they spoke in anger every single day. So the next time rage starts to rise inside you, remember this. Silence is not weakness. Silence is wisdom. It's the difference between a moment of anger and a lifetime of regret. Have you ever jumped to a conclusion only to find out later that you were completely wrong? Maybe you assumed someone was ignoring your messages when in reality their phone had died. Maybe you thought a coworker was trying to sabotage you when they were actually dealing with personal struggles. Or maybe you spread a story you heard only to realize later that it wasn't true at all. We've all been there. It's human nature to fill in the blanks when we don't have all the information. Our brains hate uncertainty, so we create stories to make sense of what we see. But here's the problem. When we speak without knowing the full picture, we risk being wrong, and sometimes being wrong can cause real harm to others, to relationships, and even to our own credibility. The danger of half-truth speaking without having all the facts is like trying to complete a puzzle with missing pieces. You might guess where things go, but if you force the wrong piece into the wrong place, the whole picture becomes distorted. Imagine this. You walk into a room and see two people whispering. They suddenly stop talking when they notice you. Your mind races. Are they talking about me? Are they hiding something? Before you even confirm the truth, you might feel betrayed or defensive. Maybe you confront them. Maybe you even tell someone else about what you think is happening. But what if they weren't talking about you at all? What if they were planning a surprise for you? What if they were discussing something private that had nothing to do with you? This is how misunderstandings grow. This is how unnecessary conflicts start, because we assume, we react, and we speak before we know the full truth. Silence creates space for truth. When you don't have all the facts, silence isn't ignorance, it's wisdom. It gives you time to observe, to ask questions, to seek clarity before forming an opinion or making a judgment. It protects you from spreading false information, from hurting someone unfairly, from damaging your own reputation by speaking on things you don't fully understand. Think about the people you respect the most. Are they the ones who jump to conclusions and speak impulsively? Or are they the ones who listen, ask the right questions, and wait until they have the whole story before giving their opinion? Pause before you speak. The next time you find yourself tempted to speak on something you don't fully understand, stop. Ask yourself, do I have the full story? Have I heard both sides? Could there be another explanation I haven't considered? If the answer isn't clear, silence is your best choice. Seek understanding first. Because once words are spoken, they can't be taken back, and the damage done by assumptions can last far longer than the moment it took to say them. In a world that rewards quick opinions and instant reactions, be the person who values truth over speed. Be the person who listens before they speak. Because the wisest people aren't always the ones who say the most, they're the ones who know when to say nothing at all. There's something deeply human about the need to be heard, to sit across from someone, lay your heart bare, and know that they are listening, not to fix, not to judge, but simply to be there. But here's the problem. Most of us don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. We hear someone venting, and we immediately feel the urge to jump in with advice, with solutions, with a quick, I know exactly how you feel story. We want to help, so we start talking. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone who is venting is to say nothing at all. Why silence is the best support. Imagine this. A friend comes to you completely overwhelmed. Maybe they're stressed about work, heartbroken over a breakup, or struggling with a personal decision. Their words are tumbling out in a rush, their emotions raw and unfiltered, and then before they even finish their sentence, you interrupt with, you know what you should do? I've been through the exact same thing, and here's what helped me. It's not that bad, just think positive. It comes from a good place. You want to make them feel better, but in that moment, your words do the opposite, because venting isn't about solutions. It's about release. It's about trust. It's about knowing that for a moment someone else is carrying a piece of your burden with you. The difference between listening and fixing, there's a difference between listening and fixing. Fixing is about you, about your knowledge, your experiences, your desire to help. But listening, that's about them. True listening is an act of selflessness. It's resisting the urge to shift the focus to yourself. It's being okay with the discomfort of silence. It's understanding that sometimes people don't need a solution, they just need a witness to their pain. Think about a time when you were struggling and just needed to talk. How did it feel when someone cut you off with advice you didn't ask for? Frustrating, right? Because in that moment, you weren't looking for answers. You were looking for connection, how to be a better listener. So what should you do when someone is venting to you? Resist the urge to interrupt. Let them finish their thoughts before saying anything. Sometimes just speaking their worries out loud helps them process things on their own. Use body language to show you're present. Nod, maintain eye contact, lean in slightly, show them without words that you're fully there. Validate their feelings. Instead of offering solutions, say things like, "That sounds really difficult. I can see why you feel that way. I'm so sorry you're dealing with this. Ask, do you want advice or just someone to listen?" This simple question can completely shift the dynamic. Some people do want advice, but many just want to be heard. Embrace silence. Don't rush to fill every pause with words. Let them sit in their emotions. Let them feel safe enough to share more if they need to. The healing power of being heard. At the end of the day, people don't always remember what you said to them, but they always remember how you made them feel. So the next time someone is venting to you, don't rush to fix it. Don't rush to make it about you. Just be there, just listen, because sometimes silence is the most comforting sound in the world. When your words could hurt someone, the weight of what we say, words are powerful. They can build people up, inspire change, and heal wounds. But they can also tear down, shatter confidence, and leave scars that never fully fade. We've all experienced it. Words spoken in a moment of frustration, sarcasm, or carelessness that left someone hurting. And maybe, just maybe, we've been on the receiving end too. We've felt the sting of someone else's words cutting deeper than they ever intended. The truth is, once words are spoken, they can never be taken back. So before we speak, we have to ask ourselves, is what I'm about to say necessary? Is it kind? Is it true? If the answer is no, silence is often the better choice. The invisible wounds of words, physical wounds heal. A cut fades, a bruise disappears, but words have a way of staying with us. Think about the meanest thing someone has ever said to you. Maybe it was years ago, maybe it was in childhood, but chances are you still remember it. That's because words don't just enter our ears, they sink into our hearts. They shape the way we see ourselves, the way we move through the world, the way we trust or don't trust others. Now think about the kindest thing someone has ever said to you. That one compliment, that one encouraging phrase, that one moment of kindness that changed the way you saw yourself. Words have that power too. Which version of yourself do you want to be? The one whose words heal or the one whose words harm? The regret of words spoken in anger. One of the most dangerous times to speak is when emotions are running high. When we're angry, we're not thinking clearly. We're thinking in heat, in defense, in attack mode, and that's when words slip out that we don't mean. words that hurt, words that cause damage we can't undo. How many relationships have been broken because of one cruel sentence? How many friendships have been ruined because of one moment of thoughtlessness? How many people carry the weight of a single phrase said to them in frustration? We all know the regret of saying something we wish we could take back, but we never regret the moments we chose to stay silent instead. Not everything needs to be said. Some truths don't need to be spoken. Some thoughts don't need to be shared. Being honest is important, but honesty without kindness is just cruelty in disguise. Before speaking, ask yourself, does this need to be said? Some things are better left unsaid. If what you're about to say won't help encourage or improve the situation, is it really necessary? Does this need to be said by me? Sometimes it's not our place. Not every battle needs our voice. Not every mistake needs our comment. Does this need to be said right now? Even the right word said at the wrong time can cause harm. If emotions are running high, waiting can be the wisest choice. The power of choosing kindness. It's easy to say whatever comes to mind. It's easy to be sarcastic, to be critical, to make jokes at someone else's expense. But choosing kindness takes strength. Choosing silence when speaking would cause harm takes self-control. Because at the end of the day, people won't remember every word you say, but they will always remember how your words made them feel. So when you have the choice to speak or to stay silent, and your words could cause hurt, pause. Breathe. Choose kindness, because words once spoken can never be unsaid. When you're about to brag, true confidence doesn't need a microphone. We all want to be seen. We want to be recognized for our hard work, appreciated for our achievements, and acknowledged for what we bring to the table. It's natural. We crave validation. But there's a fine line between sharing our success and bragging, and crossing that line can do more harm than good. Bragging doesn't make people admire us, it makes them pull away. Because when someone constantly talks about their achievements, their wealth, their success, it doesn't inspire connection, it creates distance. It makes people feel less than instead of lifting them up. So before you boast about what you've done, what you have, or how great you are, pause. Ask yourself, why do I feel the need to say this? Because true confidence doesn't shout, it just is. The subtle art of humble confidence. Have you ever met someone who was truly great at what they do, but never felt the need to announce it? They didn't walk into a room and list their accomplishments. They didn't interrupt conversations just to remind everyone how successful they are. And yet, people respected them. People wanted to be around them. Why? Because confidence is quiet. It doesn't need validation from others. It doesn't need to be announced. It just shows up in how you carry yourself, how you treat people, and how you move through the world. Now think of the opposite. The person who always finds a way to turn the conversation back to themselves. The one who can't wait to drop their latest success into a casual conversation. The one who isn't listening because they're just waiting for their turn to talk about themselves. It's exhausting, right? Instead of making them more likable, it makes them less so. Why do we brag? Bragging often comes from insecurity, not confidence. It's a way of saying, look at me, validate me, approve of me. It's a shield we use when we don't feel enough on our own. But here's the truth. The people who matter, the ones who truly see you, don't need you to prove anything. They already know your worth. And the people who are only impressed by bragging, their approval isn't worth chasing. When to share and when to stay silent. Does this mean you should never talk about your successes? Of course not. You should be proud of what you've achieved. The key is knowing how and when to share. Before you speak, ask yourself, am I sharing or am I showing off? Sharing comes from excitement, from a place of gratitude. Bragging comes from a need to impress. The difference is in the intent. Is this the right moment? Are you talking to someone who just lost their job about your big promotion? Are you bragging about your new house to someone struggling to pay rent? Timing matters. Who benefits from me saying this? Is your story meant to inspire or connect, or is it just to make yourself look good? If it's only serving your ego, it might be better left unsaid. Let your success speak for itself. The most powerful people in the world don't walk into a room and announce how powerful they are. The smartest people don't go around telling everyone how intelligent they are. The kindest people don't remind you of all their good deeds. Their actions speak for them. And that's the key. When you're truly great at something, you don't have to brag. People will notice. So the next time you feel the urge to boast, stop, take a breath, let your success be seen, not spoken. Because the loudest person in the room isn't always the most impressive. The one who doesn't need to prove anything is. Silence isn't weakness. It isn't avoidance. It isn't a lack of words. Silence is power. It's wisdom. It's knowing when your words will build and when they will break. In life, there will be moments when the urge to speak is strong, when anger burns, when assumptions form, when validation tempts you to boast. But the strongest people aren't the ones who always have something to say. They're the ones who know when to stay quiet, because silence in the right moments isn't empty. It's full of self-restraint, understanding, and patience. It gives you space to think before you act, to listen before you respond, to choose kindness over harm. So the next time you stand at the crossroads of speaking or staying silent, ask yourself, will my words add value? Will they bring peace, wisdom, or healing, or will they do more harm than good? And if the answer is unclear, pause, breathe, let silence be your strength. Because in a world that talks too much, sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all.